Hi all, I hope you're doing well and welcome to this Cine Circle Masterclass. Uh, First, it would be fantastic if you guys could give me a quick thumbs up in the comments if you can hear me okay, if you can see me okay, and just to make sure that everything is working. Um, as you all know, today this masterclass is going to be on building a sustainable career in the film and TV industry. Um, so I believe you guys can hear me okay. Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to get started and get right into it. But just I want to mention that, please, as you are already, use this as a networking opportunity in the chat. Feel free to ask any questions you might have throughout the presentation as well. We do have a resource link, which I'm going to be referencing a few times right below this video, which is just our free blog posts, mainly giving you guys lists of different crew agencies, recruitment agencies, and other resources that you can use to help you find more work within the industry. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a quick overview of today's class. We're going to start off by talking a little bit about how to pick the right career path specifically for you. We're going to talk about finding work and trainee programs. We're going to talk about different client acquisition strategies. And also, we are going to finish off with some side hustles, specifically for filmmakers, and ways that you can earn additional income, especially as you're starting out in the industry where it can be difficult to find full-time work. So a little bit about me and Cine Circle. So my name is ZB. I'm the founder of Cine Circle. I founded the company about 6 years ago, where I felt there was a real need to have more resources for filmmakers to learn the business side of the industry, to learn how to get funding, how to get distribution, as well as how to develop their careers, how to turn what for most people is a hobby into an actual business or into a sustainable career. And that was how Cine Circle was born. And 6 years later, through a variety of different online in-person events and courses, we are still trying to do exactly that. So I am going to start off with asking you guys a series of questions on creating a career path, your own career path. And as I ask you these questions, it'd be fantastic if you guys could answer them in the chat. And all of your career paths, they start off with a series of questions and decisions. And to be honest, your entire career path for the rest of your life will continue with a series of questions and decisions. And those are, they tend to be divided into type 1 and type 2 decisions. One of those is essentially one which you can make very, very quickly. You can make a decision because you can always go back. You can make a quick decision and you can go back if it turns out that it doesn't work out. You can test something out and you can go back. This is something that's very simple at the very beginning of your career, where you can test out 20, 30 different positions and jobs, on short films, only spending a day on each one, and you can very quickly pivot. But then you start to make decisions that are more long-term, or ones that create a much more you need to put a lot more time and effort or money behind it, and those tend to be a second type of decision, which is a lot harder to go back from. But the good news for most of you is that most of your decisions are going to be ones where at the moment you can try something and you can pivot and try something completely different, especially if you're quite early on. So what I would recommend is to try out as many different things as possible, as early on as possible, rather than locking yourself down to one specific career path. Because going down one specific career path, you will find that in 5 or 10 years' time, it's extremely difficult to pivot. Whereas if you try out a bunch of things right now, you can figure out exactly what interests you, what doesn't, what type of job you like, and which one you might not. So the first question, and again, it would be fantastic if you guys could give me some answers in the chat just so we get an idea of who's watching at the moment. The first question is, do you want to work in a full-time job or as a freelancer? And what I mean by that is, do you want to be working for a company where you get a monthly or yearly salary? Or do you want to work as a freelancer and you want to work on individual project and constantly be looking for, for new clients and new projects? If you want to work in full-time jobs, if you guys could quickly add full-time job into the chat, and if you want to work as a freelancer, add freelancer. And the reason why I asked this question first is it's absolutely crucial to know this. And this is going to be one of the key things I think that most people working in the film industry get wrong, is that they think they might want to be a freelancer, but really after a while they realize maybe this isn't for me. And unsurprisingly, I'm seeing a lot of people put down freelancers. And obviously the great thing about this is you work on new things all the time. You're going to work on new projects. You're never completely locked in to one company, one boss. If you have a bad experience on set or on a project somewhere, you cannot work with those people again, and you can try to find new work. You can, take holidays if you want in between projects, without having to ask someone's permission. So there is a lot of freedom associated with being a freelancer. The downside of being a freelancer is that you might spend, and you most likely will spend, a significant amount of time trying to find work rather than actually doing the jobs. So you will find that in between jobs, in between productions, in between projects, you will be doing what will feel a little bit like sales. You might be calling people, trying to find more work. You might be applying for a lot of jobs. You might need to be handling a lot of rejection along the way. Whereas if you have a full-time job and you can hold on to that job, you won't have to deal with all of those certain things. But of course, if you have a full-time job, you're working for one employer, you might not be working on as many different projects as you like, and so on. So what I would recommend is have an honest conversation with yourself. If you are already a freelancer and you are already trying out this lifestyle, whether it's for you or not. Because I do think there is a high level of stress that could be associated with being a freelancer. On the other hand, there could be a lot of boredom associated with having a full-time job. So it's about balancing and figuring out what's right for you. Do you prefer the freedom or the stability between those two? So that is one thing that I would recommend having a look at. And just to answer some of the questions over here, Paul, does working as a producer count as a freelancer employed? Producers often have their own companies. I would say that if you have your own company and it's just you, and you work project to project, I would consider that you're not technically a freelancer, but I would consider that in the realms of freelance, because you are still trying to get clients on board and to get that income. Whereas with a full-time job, the main thing that you have there is a steady monthly income. Next question. Do you want to work on set, in a studio, or in an office? So, on set, obviously that's going to be on different productions, usually on locations. In a studio could be, a TV studio, for example, where you might be working, you're also working on different productions, but it would be all within the same environment. Or perhaps you would like an office job. So have a think about that. And I'm already seeing on set quite a few times, as I predicted we probably would be. Now, everyone always loves working on set, and I think working on set can be really an incredible experience. The amount of energy that's there, the focus, trying to bring a project to life is definitely something that really energizes you. On the other hand, this is something that I was guilty of, where I thought I really wanted to work on set. And as I started to work on set more and more, I realized this lifestyle is not for me. Because I don't want to wake up at 4 a.m. every single day for weeks on end. I don't want to be working 18-hour days sometimes and literally being home just to sleep, you know? That is part of the lifestyle of working on set. You will find as you're working, especially on big productions, that it's not really a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 6 job. You will be working definitely strange hours. You'll be waking up very early. You will be, sometimes working outside in the freezing cold. So there are a lot of drawbacks to working on set. And again, the easiest way to figure that out is have some jobs on set, actually work on some short films, work on some low budget features. Just try and get your foot through the door on some smaller productions, work on set, and honestly ask yourself, after 3 days of working on set, is this for me? Would I want to spend the next 5 days a week for the next couple of years, or 20, 30, 40 years doing exactly that, working on set? Some of you might say, absolutely, yes, it's going to be incredible. And some of you might think, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. And I think we have this image built in our head as we're really, really young that filmmaking is working on set and being part of films is working on set. But it's not just that. It can be something else. So you can work in a studio. And if any of you have ever worked in a TV studio, you will realize that the energy of something being live and bringing everything in is incredible. It's just as energizing as being on set, but actually there could be a lot more happening, because on set you find that sometimes you will sit for 4 hours and do absolutely nothing. And then finally, you might actually want to have an office job. You might want to work in distribution or as a sales agent, or in marketing or in development. So there are a lot of office-based jobs that are within the film industry as well. Next, do you want to work in a creative or in a more organizational role? So, the question here is, are you a creative, director, makeup artist? Are you a cinematographer? Are you someone who's got that real creative fuel? Or do you want to work as a production manager, as a producer, as a production coordinator? Someone who might love spreadsheets a lot more than they do, mood boards, for example. Have a think about that, because that is also a key thing that might help you determine your career path. I always thought that I wanted to be a creative person, and I very soon, when I entered the industry, realized that's not me. I'm a little bit too, my thought process is a little bit too structured for this. So again, you can try out different roles, especially when you're just entering the industry, and just see where do you feel like you fit in. And I think one quote or one person that I interviewed, they said something that really, really resonated with me, which is, you found the right role where there is absolute chaos happening around you, and you feel really energized and present, and like this is exactly what you should be doing in that particular moment. Because working in film, there is going to be a lot of things going wrong. There's a lot of problem solving on a daily basis. You're always working against the clock and so on. So you need to be in a place where you are, in a place where you're working on something that's difficult, that might be chaotic, there might be problems coming up, and you're still feeling happy with that. You're not feeling completely stressed out, but you're feeling like that's where you belong. And you also need to ask yourself, do you like to work with other people? Do you like working as a group? Do you like working with people who are, where your job and your performance is actually dependent on other people's performances as well, where you have to communicate really well? Or do you prefer working by yourself? Do you prefer when you get an assignment and you do that assignment, you don't really need to worry about everyone else around you? Because again, that will really, really help you figure out which one, what type of job you might want. And obviously, there are very few jobs where you are working completely by yourself. As an editor, you might be mainly working by yourself in a room. Still need to work with a director, but less so than a director who is always working with people. There's very few times where a director is just, working by himself, brainstorming and so on, but majority of the time you have to be communicating with people, and your job really depends on other people. So have a think about which one of those you are. And keep having really honest conversations with yourself about this. Because again, I started off in the film industry and I very soon realized that what I thought it would be, it really wasn't. And the expectation that I had was, that I would absolutely love directing and producing, and this would be the path for me. And as I started to work on more and more and more professional productions where I thought it would be easier and easier and easier, I realized it started to be harder because I wasn't where I wanted to be and I wasn't really doing what I wanted to do. So have a real check-in with yourself every couple of months. Is this really what I want to be doing right now? Okay, and now let's talk a little bit about finding work and trainee programs. I saw that there are definitely some people here that are based in the US as well. I think the majority of people are based in the UK. All the tips that I give are going to be applicable for both. The first thing is to find the right trainee scheme for you. All the ones that I've shown over here are UK based, but there are plenty of other trainee schemes you can find in the US as well. And obviously this is not a full resource, but just a couple of thoughts. So have a think about what is the right trainee scheme for you. Are you looking for to be the camera department and the arts department, the production department? What do you specifically want to do? Have a think about that, and then try and just simply Google the right trainee scheme for you, or you can use ChatGPT or whatever you might use as your online resource to find the right trainee schemes for you. And you want to put together a list of some of those. For finding the right job, I would definitely recommend to start with recruiters and really get help, especially when you're starting off really early on. I find I've been, I've worked on the side where I've been reading the CVs and reading all the applications, and what I can tell you is most people get it wrong. Most people send applications and CVs that don't look right, applications that aren't tailored to that specific job description. Most of them are not great. So actually, if you can get it really right, if you can apply for the right job, and if you can send through the right information, the right application, your chances of getting jobs, and especially full-time jobs, are pretty high. But the best way to do this is definitely if you can find a recruiter. There are plenty of film and TV specific recruiters who help you find full-time jobs. Searchlight, for example, is an example in the UK, but there are plenty of others. Yellow Cat is another one. Have a think about what those recruiters might be, and try to have a conversation with them, because their job is to literally get you that job. They're there to try and get you the work, because that's where their commission comes from. So try and work with recruiters, or perhaps have a think about what are some coaches you can do, even some programs where you might pay just for like a CV review or things like that. There are even some free organizations where you can do that as well. And again, I mentioned examples of recruiters. Searchlight is one. Yellow Cat is another one. The Crewing Company. So there are quite a few different organizations where they recruit specifically for film and TV. Now let's talk a little bit about the application. And this is whether you are applying for a trainee scheme or for a full-time job, or even for a freelancer job. The methods are quite similar. And in the application, the first thing that I would do is tailor your CV to that specific job. As filmmakers, we're probably, most of us, especially if you're early on in your career, you might think to yourself, you know what, I am a director / producer / production assistant / editor, and so on. And Yeah, and I think, that's okay again at the start, but that essentially means that you need various different CVs for the different jobs that you're applying for. So if you're applying for a production assistant job on a feature film, your CV might be very different to applying for a producing role on a short film that's going to be working over 2 days. Um, so you want to make sure that you're really tailoring your CV to that specific, application. Very, very few people do this. And within your CV, at the very top, you're going to have some sort of, like mission statement, or something there to kind of talk, just a short paragraph about yourself, where you are at the moment and what you want to achieve. You want to make sure that you can tailor that specifically to the job as well. You also want to make sure that you tailor your cover letter. You should always have a cover letter along with your CV specifically to that job. Take a look at the job description, specifically what they're looking for, and tailor that cover letter to that job description. Because if you do that, again, you will be in the top 5% right away. Because most people will copy paste and attach the same CV to every single job, and that simply does not work. Next, show initiative and passion. And the key over here is to show, not tell. And I don't mean show in a visual way, but what I mean by that is if you tell people, I'm so passionate about this, I've always wanted to work in film and I still just always want to work in film, and I'm so incredibly passionate, that doesn't mean anything. You have to show that you've already have that passion and you've already acted on it. So I've been working on, I've just finished university a year ago, and I've already worked on 15 different short films where I've been learning exactly, how to be a great, camera assistant, for example, and how the camera department works. And that's why I'm so interested in, in becoming a trainee in this camera department. So you want to really show specific examples so that people believe you, that you really have that initiative and that you really have that passion. Next, really have a think about how can you be professional, and that means using the right terminology, knowing really what all the terms mean and what all the job description really means, what it includes. If you don't understand something, try and find someone who does, or try and Google it. Really try and understand the entire job description so that you can come across as professional. Make sure to proofread your CV and send your CV to at least a couple of people so that they can review it as well. There are plenty of Facebook groups as well, where some of them, they do these free CV clinics. And one of them is called Runners, or People in TV Runners, or something along those lines. Where you can post your CV, and someone might be able to give you guys some advice on that. But definitely have a couple of friends or colleagues take a look at your CV to make sure that there are no spelling mistakes, to make sure that it's all clear, concise, and so on. So I would definitely recommend getting that feedback and review. And next, be honest and authentic. And what I mean by honest is, this is really for interviews more so than in the CVs. But in the interviews, if someone asks you about something and you don't know, say, I actually don't know this, but I would absolutely love to learn. Because if you're applying for an entry-level position, they're expecting you to not have that much knowledge about different things. But you need to be, they need to be comfortable that if you don't know something, you will ask for help, you will ask for advice. There is nothing, and I can tell you guys, I worked as a head of marketing for a company where I was hiring quite a lot of different people across the years. There is nothing that scared me more than someone who I knew didn't have all the knowledge, but in an interview was telling me that they know absolutely everything and that they don't need help. Because that means to me that they will definitely not be asking for help, and they will just get it wrong, rather than asking for help, getting advice, and getting it right. So be honest about what you don't know. And then final interview tip. There is a question that you can ask in an interview that will right away give you so much information and give you an upper hand over every single person applying. Because very, very few people ask this question, and it is a question that will just win you interviews. And that question is, what is it? Is there anything? This is a question that you ask at the very end of the interview. Is there anything about what I've said so far or my experience that is currently worrying you that makes you think that I might not be right for the job? Is there anything else that that you're worried about that I can put your mind at ease about right now? What's something that might be? It's essentially a question where you are right away trying to figure out what is it that that person is going to be thinking when they leave the interview. If you ask for feedback after they tell you no, they're not going to give you that feedback. Very few people have the time to really reply and give you honest feedback. But if you put the interviewer right there and then on the spot and you ask them, is there anything that concerns you about my current experience, that where we could have a further discussion about, they'll have to be honest in that particular situation. If they say, no, actually, I think you're great, it will be very, very strange if they then don't hire you. So most likely they will tell you, I actually don't think, maybe your experience doesn't quite match. I think we might be looking for someone with a bit more experience, in which case you can follow up and you can ask for a bit more feedback there. And you can say, what is this specifically about my experience? Is it that I've only been working on shorts and not features? Or, I'm just wondering, for the future, what it is that you felt that you were concerned about. And that way, you will have a much higher chance of getting the job, because there might be something that they say, actually, I'm not really sure about this with you. And you'll say, oh, no, sorry, I didn't mention this in the interview, but I actually have done this type of stuff before in a different production. So there might be times where, they've made an assumption going, this person isn't going to know any of this. I'm not even going to bother asking them. Whereas if you ask that question, they'll then open up and have that conversation. On the other hand, if you don't get the job, you will actually always get feedback from every single interview. And I'm sure some of you might have had this, this experience where you've done interviews and interviews and interviews, never gotten feedback, and you don't quite know what you're doing wrong. This is one of the best ways to get that feedback right there in the room. Now, let's move on to some client acquisition strategies, because most of you want to be freelancers, which means that most of you want to continuously acquire new clients. How do you do that? How can you have that steady stream of clients that you're continuously building up? So again, key thing over here is, as a freelancer, you need to really think about not finding work, but about finding clients. Finding clients, and who is your client? That's something that's a key question that you need to ask yourself. So it could be a producer, it could be a head of a department, it could be a specific company. If you're, for example, a videographer or a photographer and you're doing events videography, it might be a specific events company. If you're, working as a camera assistant, it could be that essentially your client will be the cinematographer who might have the choice of who to hire within their department. If you're a production manager, it could be the producer that's hiring you directly. So whoever is the person who has the say over you getting hired would in this case be your client. So first things first, have a think about who your client is. And here are just a few different strategies to get you thinking about this. The first one, and you won't believe how important this will be, is finding work through other colleagues who are on the same level as you. This is how I've interviewed quite a lot of people in the film industry who have been in there, especially between 1 and 8 years in the film industry. They get a huge amount of their work from referrals. So they know someone who's working on a production as a PA, and and the production coordinator says, okay, we need another PA, in a few days for this specific shoot. And and the production assistant goes, oh yeah, I know someone I can refer you. They're really, really good. You will get a lot of work like this through referrals. Someone who knows you suggests you to other, for other productions. Or you might have someone, again, another friend who's also a production assistant who suddenly is ill and they can't make it. And rather than telling someone, oh, you know what, I just can't make it, I'm ill, they can say, I can't make it, I'm ill, but there's this person that I can recommend who's absolutely great who can show up tomorrow. You will get a lot of work like this through your colleagues. So build up a ton of relationships with people, go to networking events, in webinars like this, try and collect some people's information to build up as many relationships, not with just people who will be hiring you, but people on your level who can refer you. Next, Facebook groups. These can be really great for finding last-minute work. But this is the thing. The key is someone is most likely on these Facebook groups. Either they're like, oh, I'm working on this project and it's probably unpaid and so on, and and it's not great. But there are plenty of different groups, especially specifically looking for runners and production assistants, where on these Facebook groups they will be posting saying, I need a runner tomorrow in London or in New York or in the city. I need a runner tomorrow. Is anyone available? And if you can be quick on these Facebook groups and you can, and you can reply very quickly and you can reply professionally and you can apply, you are quite likely to get some last minute jobs on these Facebook groups. Events. Whether it's networking events, if you're looking for jobs as a composer, as an assistant camera operator, and so on, definitely events, networking events specifically for filmmakers are a great way to build up connections. But also have a think about the different events you can attend if you're a photographer or a videographer. Maybe you want to attend events that are related to travel, or food, or whatever it is, completely unrelated to filmmaking, but events where you can go over there and pitch yourself as a videographer or photographer. So have a think about what events you could attend. Next, working with an agent. And what most people think is that you can only get an agent if you have a lot of experience, you've been working in an industry for a really long time. And that's true if you want someone to represent you as a director or as a cinematographer. But there are plenty of agencies that recruit runners, that recruit production assistants. And those are, great agencies as well. Again, there are a ton of different agencies. And again, under this video, I've linked our page to our blogs that are all related to finding work within the film and TV industry. You can find a lot of resources there on exactly what agents exist. But yeah, essentially, you can find an agent even if you're a runner. And that person, that agency will help get you more and more work, especially if you're reliable, especially if you make yourself available on short notice. Next, develop a niche or brand and build an online presence. So I think this is really absolutely crucial, especially if you're trying to be, for example, a makeup artist or someone in a creative space. You want to have a certain brand. You want to be known for a certain type of film or a certain type of project, because then you will become the go-to person for that project. Rather than being a bit vanilla and a bit everything, try and really develop your personal brand to be something that's recognizable, be something like, oh, okay, that person really does this. And this can be, by creating your website, your social media pages, and so on. And finally, the most important part, create your own database and use it. And what I mean by database is you will have over, once you start going to all your networking events and you start making connections with people who are on your level or above you, you will start to make all of these connections, and you will have quite a few people on your list with their contact information. So get a spreadsheet together. Even if you're a creative and not an organizational person, get a spreadsheet together and just note down the names of all the people that you know who could potentially find you work. And this can be, again, companies, this can be producers, these can be other people, other PAs on your level, or makeup artists, or whatever is the part that you want to go into. Have a list of all of them and have their phone numbers and their email addresses, And when your work gets quiet, use that database, email all of them, send them a message, send them a text, and just ask, do you guys have anything? I'm free at the moment. So, if you have any last minute projects or, any last minute spots available, I'm currently available. Building up this database and this client list, this is going to be the key for you. And that's why people who have been in the industry for 15 years can find more steady work than people who are just starting out, because they've built this database over those years. You can speed that up by getting really, really organized, attending a lot of events, meeting a lot of people, and working on a lot of different projects. But the key is to get organized with all of those contacts. You asked for some few examples as well. I believe this was for the crew, for the agents. Again, if you're looking for, there's the crewing company, there's Sarah Put, there is, various Soho runners, post-production runners, there's various different post-production agencies and so on. So yeah, you can find quite a few of them either in the resources below, or honestly just by doing a simple Google search as well. And then finally, side hustles. So as we know, working in the film industry can be a little bit unreliable. I think if anyone's based in the UK right now, I think the US don't have it quite as bad as we do. But in the UK, the industry has come to a bit of a stop for a really long time now. It's been a year, really, that there's been very, very, very few jobs available. And I know this because I've done interviews with really high up line producers who have produced, the BAFTAs and the, really, really big TV programs, who also said they haven't had a job in a year. Because in TV specifically, there has been pretty much no new programs being commissioned for the last year, which makes it extremely difficult to find steady work. In those times, it's nice to have different side hustles. And again, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just a couple of ideas, but have a think about maybe one of these could be right for you, and maybe it will get you thinking about some other ones. If you're a cinematographer or a videographer or even a photographer, you can sell stock footage to Shutterstock, Adobe, various different online platforms that sell stock footage. You can sell stock footage to them. If you got a really, really great clip of something that you feel like, this would be definitely used by quite a few different people, or you might have a drone and you can do really great aerial shots somewhere in the city, that could really sell on these platforms. So perhaps you can sell some stock footage if you're in the camera department. You could have a think about teaching or running different courses, and you can, sign up to a platform like Udemy, for example, where you can sell online courses, and they can be beginner level. You don't have to have 10 years of experience to run certain courses, but you might have gone to university, you might have done, a bunch of makeup courses, and you can actually teach and run some courses. You can monetize your social media. So again, if you're a filmmaker and you're creative and you're really creative and you know how to create short form video content that people really want to watch, you can make a lot of money right now on platforms such as TikTok, who have they have the Creators Fund where they pay people for creating videos. So if you have a certain amount of followers and you're getting a good number of views, you can actually make quite a lot of monthly revenue from just making TikTok videos and getting a lot of views on those TikTok videos, because they will give you essentially a percentage of what they charge advertisers on the platform who are advertising when your video is playing. So you can monetize different social media platforms. You have the exact same ability on YouTube and so on. Work at film events. This is a great one, and I see a lot of filmmakers do this because we run a lot of film events. So we have a ton of filmmakers who work at our in-person events. But this is a great way of getting a bit of side income while being at an event that's specifically for filmmakers, networking, meeting filmmakers, and getting paid for it. So have a think whether you can work at a film festival, work at a film exhibition or expo, film at work at a film premiere. This could be a great way to have, a nice little side income while, continuing to network and make those connections to build up that client list to get more jobs specifically within film. You could also start hosting your own film networking event. At the moment, you can hire out smaller bars on just a minimum spend, or without paying a fee, without having any upfront costs. You can promote the event on your social media, sell tickets on different ticketing platforms that don't charge any upfront fees. So you can start hosting a networking event and even selling paid tickets to that networking event. And again, this not only gets you a little bit of a side income, but it's a great way for you to meet new people and network with them on an ongoing basis. Okay, so we've come to the end now. I hope that you guys have found this useful, but I would love to take any questions that you might have. I believe there has been a couple already, so I'm just going to read through them. But in the meantime, please feel free to ask any other questions that you might have. Okay, so I've seen some great recommendations over here. That would be great. I believe some people have been talking about Georgina Bob, who I think is, by the way, really great as a career coach. I would definitely check her out. So what agencies would you recommend for sending an editor and director reel to help open work connections? So if you're in the UK, I'm not sure where you're based, but if you're in the UK, I would have a look at The Crewing Company would be one. They work with both post-production and production staff, so that could be interesting. Yeah, I would definitely check out The Crewing Company, and they have quite a few different sister companies as well. So yeah, so if you check out The Crewing Company, that could be a good one. What about LinkedIn, and how helpful is festival experience? Yeah, so LinkedIn is really important. It's something I didn't mention here because we only have a small amount of time to try and get as many strategies in. But I would definitely have a professional looking LinkedIn. LinkedIn is also a really great place to show your passion and initiative. So if you're posting on LinkedIn and you're posting about current events in the film industry, you're showing that you're really caring about the industry and that you really are passionate about it. You're following the news and so on. So yeah, LinkedIn is absolutely crucial. Make sure you have a professional photo. Make sure that that your experience is all up to date, that there are no spelling mistakes there, because people definitely do look at LinkedIn when hiring. Festival experience, if you mean about whether you're an award-winning filmmaker and whether you won festivals, this could be useful if you're like a director or a producer, for sure. But it's more so important if you're pitching projects for funding than it is if you're just trying to find work on a project. But it can definitely help. Anywhere you recommend to look for full-time office studio-based roles? Would love to get a foot on the ladder. I have experience in an MA as a journalist. So this would really depend on what kind of office job you're looking for. Because again, you could work in the finance department, you could work in the marketing department, you could work in the sales department. There are various different departments that you can work for in an office. But what I'd recommend is having a think about what specifically you want to do in an office. In the UK, Searchlight is a recruiter that deals quite a lot, mainly with like office jobs. So they deal with more executive style jobs rather than on-set productions. So I would check out Searchlight for that. Do you have any suggestions of recruiters or companies for actors specifically? So for acting jobs, you're looking at agencies more so than recruiters. So you're looking at finding yourself an agent. There is actually a resource underneath this video as well, in that if you click on that link, where there will be a list of UK-based acting agencies. Again, you can also find a ton of them online, or you can attend actor-related events where you can speak to the acting agencies face to face. But yeah, for an actor, I do think it's absolutely crucial to get an agent and get a good agent. We have quite a lot of resources on our website as well. If you guys check out CineCircle Pro, it's like our online platform, that there is a monthly fee to be on part of that platform, which is £17 per month. But there you have a lot of different talks with acting agents who talk specifically about what they're looking for, how they recruit, and how you can increase your chances of getting an agent as an actor or actress. Would you say roles such as a runner or assistant are a good way to figure out working as a creative or organizational? Yeah, absolutely. I think what you can see as a runner, you'll be working in a lot of different departments. You'll be helping out a lot of different departments. So I think being a runner is a job where you can really use it as an opportunity to take a look at, okay, what would I want to be doing here on this set? Who looks like someone that I would want to be? Do they look like they're actually enjoying themselves? Do they look like they're having a good time, or are they really, really stressed? But as a runner, I think you have the opportunity to really figure out, am I more of a creative person or organizational person? Because I think a lot of people might think they know until they actually start doing the job. Right. I'm a chiropractor looking to work with film crew and actors on set. So as a chiropractor, I would definitely recommend reaching out to the producers or to the production managers on set, because they would be the ones who would be dealing with that, rather than, I think, individual actors. Okay. So I think that is pretty much it. So I hope that you all enjoyed this masterclass. I appreciate there was a lot of bite-sized pieces of information throwing at you over here, and that there might be quite a lot of other questions and so on. So we do try and do these classes as often as we can. So have a look at cinecircle.co.uk if you like this class, if you enjoyed it. We do try and run more free webinars as well. But in the meantime, I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you found it useful. And yeah, we really hope to see you at another CineCircle event. So hope you have a great evening if you're in the UK, or rest of your day if you're in the US. And we will hopefully see you at the next CineCircle event. So thank you and take care.